Salutations and good morrow everyone, and welcome back to another grounded video where today we're going to be going through and we are going to be talking two bosses that were cut from the game. Both these bosses were cut from the game for different reasons, and both of them would have been really cool additions to come to the game. Now before we go in and we start talking about them, I'm going to explain to you guys why I think that these shouldn't have been cut, and also I'm going to be going through and talk about ways that they could have brought them back and if the possibility for them to come in future updates is still something that we could see. So the first one that I want to talk to you guys about is actually where I'm running right now in the game, and it was going to be inside of the Fire Ant Hill. You guys guessed it, it is the Fire Ant Queen, or the Queen Ant. There was going to be a Queen Ant that was going to be added to the game. If you guys remember on the feature board, we had not only a Queen Ant, but we also had ant pheromone control on there. So there was a possibility of us being able to control an ant at some point in the game with some sort of ant pheromone or something like that. But sadly, it's been cut. So let's take a peek at the Fire Ant Queen, shall we? Okay, so here is what would have been the Queen Fire Ant and what she looks like in all of her glory. This was taken from a leak of somebody else going into a development world and showing this off. That's how this was gotten. I wasn't actually able to go in and see this myself. That's why it's not Pete that you are seeing right here. This is what she looked like though, and she actually matches the size of what a Queen Ant would be in comparison to all of its little female workers that it has running around. But fun fact, most ants that you see are actually female. Only males have wings. They're born to go out, mate, make new colonies, and then as soon as they mate, they die. So they tend to not be very many of them in an ant colony, at least as far as I understand it. But all in all, this is something that was cut from the game. Do I think that she should have been cut from the game? No. Like I said, when you go through and play an RPG game, bosses are cool, and bosses can drop specialty things, right? But you don't need them to drop specialty things. You could have it in the game just for something fun to do. And that's one thing that bums me out about both of these bosses that were cut from the game. They don't need to be for story. They don't need to be for anything like that. But they would have been for fun things to do in the game. So, do I think they needed to be cut? No, I don't. But what would have we gotten with this if they would have brought it through the game? Well, the first thing is how you would have summoned it is this would have been able to be summoned after you had finished fighting the praying mantis. You were supposed to use mantis chunks and a couple other things in order to actually bring this into the game, right? You would go through, you'd place it down like you would normally a mantis or a broodmother, and you would summon it into the game and it would fight you. What it would bring is a bunch of fire ants. It would summon fire ants to come and fight with you. That only makes sense. It's a queen ant. If you attack the queen, the rest of the hill is going to attack you. I mean, it's just the way it works. But sadly, it never got brought to the game. We were also supposed to get an armor set that was going to come with the Queen Ant that looked a lot like the moth armor that we have now. Maybe a little bit more like, I don't know, like hunter cap kind of way looking, and a little bit more like leathery looking, kind of like the grub armor. It's like if you took the grub armor and the moth armor and slapped them together, and that would have been the armor set that you have. But sadly, it was also cut from the game, and we will not be seeing that either. So all in all, the Queen Ant, would it have been really cool? Yeah. Can it come in a future update? Very possibly. Maybe a DLC of some sort. Maybe we're going to see a DLC that they come out with, and they're going to be showing off maybe a bunch of bosses, new armor, new weapons, things like that. Because at the end of the day, Grounded's only in 1.0. There's still other updates that could be coming in the future that could bring some pretty impressive things, like new bosses, like fighting this boss that's right here. Maybe it brings new fire or new queen ants to all of the hills that you can go through and summon out and fight through doing different ways. Maybe you start with the red ant queen, work your way into the black ant queen, and then you work your way to the fire ant queen. But I digress. All in all, this was cut from the game. But I do want to point out one thing that's special about ants is if you actually kill the queen, the hill itself dies. So maybe that's why it was cut, is because they decided it doesn't make sense ecologically or biologically, or however we would say it, for them to cut out something like the fire ant queen and have a colony die out or still be there. I'm not sure. It's a video game though. I mean, they just decided not to bring it in, is more or less what happened. They decided not to add it. Hopefully we get this one in the future. But let's hop over. Let's talk about our next little buddy that I wanted to talk about. All right, guys, so this next one that I want to talk to you guys about, I'm actually going to be running over to the sandbox to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to go over to the location of where this enemy was supposed to spawn in. Now, before we go over there, I want to tell you guys how this one would have actually been spawned in. In order to actually summon out this creature, it would have followed the same path as the Broodmother or the Praying Mantis or the Fire Ant Queen that said in the game, but this one would have actually required Mantis parts, Broodmother parts, and Fire Ant Queen parts in order to summon it in. It was going to be found over in the sandbox, and you guys guessed it, it is the lizard boss that was going to be in the game. You guys remember that giant hole that was behind the sandcastle? Yeah, the one that was all the way over there that nobody could ever get to, and it was just there. It was just a big rock that was in the way, and before we could get down into the cave just a little bit, well, that is where it was supposed to be. It was actually supposed to be a giant underground cavern that you could go down in. There was going to be a bunch of different things down there that you could find and explore through that would have been a really cool environment for you to go through and summon out a boss, just like you would have summoned out, say, like a Broodmother or a Praying Mantis, how their arenas look really, really cool. That's what the lizard is, well, that's exactly what it is. The lizard would have been spread out. Now, a lot of people have been saying, well, lizard this, lizard that. What kind of lizard is it? Well, it's a lizard nonetheless. It looks to me, it looks a lot like a bearded dragon. Here, let's look at a picture of it. So I know a lot of you guys have seen this picture before. This picture is the picture of the lizard, and this is what it would have looked like. And you guys can see what I'm talking about the environment and how large it would have been to look around it. And all in all, it does look a lot like a bearded dragon. I actually have a bearded dragon, and this looks quite similar. Its head's a little too stumpy for a bearded dragon, and its spikes are a little too large. Now, I'm not an expert in lizards whatsoever, but all in all, this would have been a very, very cool enemy to see come to the game. Now, with this enemy, we would have had all sorts of fun things, like a ground smash attack that comes with it. Like I said, it would have been very difficult to fight. And look at this is single player, and look at how big the freaking health bar is. That is the size of the health bar of the Praying Mantis when you have 4 people going at once, and this is a 1-person fight. So this would have been a very, very difficult fight. Would this have given you weapons and armor? Possibly. Who knows? I never know if this one was actually going to bring us armor. Maybe some sort of upgraded shield or bow or something like that. But nonetheless, this would have been a really cool boss to fight. But what else would I think? What else do I think about this boss, I should say? I think this boss would have been fine to come to the game. I think that this is once again one of those things that it really didn't need to give you anything. This could have been purely an achievement. Right? This could have been purely an achievement that you can give out on Steam or on Xbox that just says, congratulations, you fought the most difficult boss in the game. Right? You don't need to give it anything else. You could have given us 20,000 raw science for it. You could have given us a bunch of meat. Right? You could have just put in meat and we would have been eating lizard meat. Right? And it could have given you attack plus. Right? It could have been something simple like that. It doesn't need to be a whole gear set. It doesn't need to be a new armor. It doesn't need to be another perk. It doesn't need to go down all those different paths like they have right now for all the bosses in the game. I know that's how they've gone through and played the game, but to me, I'm looking to gameplay ability and everything like that, just thinking how much fun this would have been if we would have gotten this in the game. But sadly, the lizard was also scrapped. We are not going to be seeing it in the game unless it's going to come in a future update. Heck, maybe we're going to get a lizard update in the future. Maybe it's literally going to say, into the lizard den. Who knows? But it would be really, really cool. But sadly, no, the lizard was discontinued and we will not be seeing it anytime soon. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, make sure you guys hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe today. There's even more videos that I could go over to talk about things that were cut from the game, from wasps to armor set to story to all sorts of different things. If that's what you guys want to know about what was cut from the game in the past, just go ahead and let me know by going down in those comments. But thank you guys all so much, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.